My guess is obviously this is not going to be accepted. The ceasefire offer is not going to be accepted by Hamas, which after all is committed to the destruction of Israel. So, as an attempt by the US and Israel to begin what is a tricky, difficult process of transitioning out of the war phase into what comes next in Gaza and indeed to some extent in the West Bank. This is a step forward, but this isn't going to resolve the war. It isn't going to resolve the long-term, some of the long-term issues that are there. And I suspect the war will continue, and Israel will continue to pursue its objective.
Donald Trump has unveiled his Gaza peace plan with the backing of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump shared details of a new authority that would be in charge of Palestine called the Board of Peace, or the Gaza International Transitional Authority. It's got a few different names at the moment, but effectively it would be a transitional government led by the US president. Among those who'll sit on the council is the former PM Sir Tony Blair.
My plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace. So it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. And we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Good man.
There you go. Well, Michael Oren is a former Israeli ambassador to the United States and said if Hamas accepts the deal, Israel would have won the war.
It looks like Israel just won the war. Because what were Israel's goals in the war? It was to get rid of Hamas, or rid Gaza of Hamas, to end the threat that Gaza posed to Israel under Hamas rule, and to secure the release of the hostages. That's winning the war. It comes at a price for Israel. Israel has to release 250 mass murderers from its jails. People are serving life sentences for multiple terrorist attacks. But I think most Israelis would say that is a small price to pay.
Let's add some words from Benjamin Netanyahu into our big pie as well. If Hamas don't accept the terms of the deal, said the Israeli Prime Minister, Israel will finish the job themselves.
But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done.
Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's get some on the point sort of reaction to what we've heard from Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, specifically this new international transitional body, the Board of Peace. It doesn't involve any Palestinian names, Gerry. Does it matter?
I mean, look, I don't think, I suspect the reason for that is that there was no one probably acceptable to the Israelis or to the Americans who would be willing to do the job. The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank is deeply corrupt and moribund. Mahmoud Abbas is in the 19th year, I think, of a 6-year term that he was elected, a 5-year term that he was elected to nearly 20 years ago. So the PA has no authority. And of course, Israel is not going to accept anybody from Hamas or any of their representatives as part of this. So, look, Israel is trying to win this war that was started against it by a terrorist organization which mass murdered 1,200 of its citizens, still holds an extraordinary number of its citizens hostage. It's trying to do what it can to kill Hamas and its leaders, to destroy as much of its enemy as it can. And this is an attempt to, everybody wants to see this war over as quickly as possible. Everybody, I think, of a decent mindset wants to see Hamas destroyed and wants to see the war end that way. But if this is a way to achieve that, essentially getting Hamas to surrender, give up the hostages, agree to no role whatsoever in an organization that's committed to the destruction of Israel, then some kind of a body is obviously going to be necessary to oversee a kind of a transitional period. And this body, including Tony Blair and others, presumably will be part of it. My guess is obviously this is not going to be accepted. The ceasefire offer is not going to be accepted by Hamas, which after all is committed to the destruction of Israel. So, as an attempt by the US and Israel to begin what is a tricky, difficult process of transitioning out of the war phase into what comes next in Gaza and indeed to some extent in the West Bank. This is a step forward, but this isn't going to resolve the war. It isn't going to resolve the long-term, some of the long-term issues that are there. And I suspect the war will continue, and Israel will continue to pursue its objective.
Jeremy Corbyn's tweeted, Yasmin, this evening, Tony Blair's catastrophic decision to invade Iraq costs thousands upon thousands of lives. He shouldn't be anywhere near the Middle East, let alone Gaza. It's not up to Blair, Trump or Netanyahu to decide the future of Gaza. That is up to the people of Palestine. What do you think?
Well, I think I just had a moment when I thought I'd died and gone to hell. This commentary we've just had, which completely failed. I don't care about what Corbyn has said or not. This is my response to what I've just heard my fellow panelists come up with, as if the 60,000 plus people who died, babies, fetuses, grandmothers, were all Hamas terrorists. Not a word about the terrorist leader that is Israel's Netanyahu today. And we're back to these days when colonialism is, white colonialism rules. How can you have a peace deal with a man who says, if they don't agree with any of this, we will finish the job? This is incredible to me, to listen to the commentary we've just had, as if none of this matters, that only Hamas matter, that Hamas are the only ones that matter. So, no, there will be no peace deal. There shouldn't be a peace deal with whites only in charge. But of course, Palestinians are helpless in this.
So it isn't of any comfort.
Are hopeless.
Okay, so it isn't of any comfort at all that some of Gaza's neighbours, some of those rich Arab nations, as you term them, would be involved in this transitional authority.
They have never cared about Palestinians. They have failed and betrayed them over and over. Qatar has played a kind of dodgy role. But the rest have done nothing.
But how?
But I find this colonial thing that's going on. I lived under the colonies, and I remember Uganda, my country, then. The colonial government imposed a kind of non-democratic democracy on the country and called it something I can't even remember what, where there were no black representatives in parliament. There were chosen white governors and a few chiefs from some tribes who never went in. And I thought that was over. By what right? By what right does Tony Blair, Trump and Netanyahu decide the fate of a people who has just acquired statehood, thanks to the generosity of some of the European powers?
Well, they've been recognised, haven't they, by European nations, many Western nations now, but not, of course, by others like the US and Israel. And I wonder, Gerry, on your comments here, it's quite simple and straightforward as far as Yasmin is concerned, but I wonder whether that, misses the intricacies of this, that actually Hamas would never agree to any deal at all. How do we sort out a terror group at the moment, currently still running rampant within Gaza?
You don't deal with them in any way other than to destroy them. We spent 20 years in this situation, Kate, of a terrorist group running a geographical location next door to Israel, which, by the way, this stuff about colonialism, and do me a favor, there's one democracy in that region that allows people the kind of rights that we enjoy in the West. It allows women's rights. It allows, gays and minorities' rights. It allows ethnic minorities' rights.
Not to talk of the massacres, not to talk of the murders.
One democracy in that.
Hang on, Yasmin.
just finished.
No,
There's one
I can't
democracy
do
in that
this.
region.
I can't listen to this.
Hang on, Yasmin. Just let's give Jerry a chance to speak, and
There's
then
one
you'll have a
democracy in
chance
that
to
region,
respond.
and it's called Israel. Israel would have no desire whatsoever to colonize other parts of the Middle East if it were not under constant attack, and if it had not been attacked on October the 7th by a murderous crowd who now, and you talk about the 60,000 casualties, which is a number that comes only from Hamas.
No.
Hang on, Yasmin. Save it.
It's from the Gaza Health Ministry, which is controlled by Hamas.
No, it's a UN.
No, it is.
It's a UN.
Well, no, it's from the Gaza Health Ministry, which gives us that number. I don't regard the UN as any more trustworthy than the Gaza Health Ministry. Indeed, I regard it as equally more on roughly morally the same level. But the 60,000 number, which is almost certainly exaggerated anyway, there's never been an attempt to try and explain what proportion of that is Hamas fighters by either the UN or by the Gaza Health Ministry. And as we've talked about before, Kate, regrettably, obviously, tragically, when you conduct a war against an enemy that wants to destroy you, there will be people who get caught up in that war and who get killed. It happened in the Second World War. It happened in the Korean War. It happened in the Vietnam War. It happened in the war that we fought against ISIS just a few years ago when we destroyed ISIS, and we also tragically killed thousands and thousands of civilians in the process. That is what happens, and the responsibility for those deaths lies with Hamas. Hamas could end this war tomorrow, today, by giving up the hostages, surrendering. Instead, what it does, it hides behind the civilians in Gaza, and it actually wants Israel to attack it in those places, knowing that innocent people will be killed. It is Hamas's responsibility. It is not our responsibility. This is not some exercise in colonialism. This is an exercise in self-defense by a people that have been that has been surrounded for nearly 100 years by people who want to destroy it.
Okay, all right.
I will have to come back.
Yes,
I have to come back properly because I have to come back. The whole world sees what Israel's doing. The whole world is up against not Israel's right to exist, not Israel's right to defend itself, but Netanyahu's campaign to destroy a people. And as for this extraordinary statement that Israel's never occupied any lands, does this man know any history? Does he know about the 6-Day War? Does he know the extended territories? Does he know the plan for a greater Israel? Those people who died, those people who are dying as we speak, burning in tents, being set alight, children shot point blank. And he says this is what Hamas wants to happen. I'm sorry, none of this. Let me inform him that this kind of propaganda might have had its day. Nobody's listening to him or people like him or Israel or Trump or Netanyahu.
Okay,
and
Yasmin.
Thank God for that.
Okay, Yasmin. The issue is still that there is no... In fact, I don't think anyone is winning in Gaza. Let's just return to the issue at hand. And then there is the broader issue of peace in the Middle East. But at the moment, the Palestinian Authority has no say in what happens in Gaza. Hamas is Gaza's only left government, only left authority. And Benjamin Netanyahu is determined to eradicate them. What this peace plan does, and I'm going to take the middle ground here and say what this peace plan does, is it walks Benjamin Netanyahu away from his promise that he's been making for several months now to eradicate Hamas. Instead, if the agreement is accepted by Hamas, members of the terror group who pledged to live peacefully would be granted amnesty once all the hostages are returned, and those who wish to leave Gaza would be allowed to do so and provided safe passage. That is a significant climb down from the Israeli Prime Minister, isn't it, Yasmin? If we talk about the main objective being to stop the war in Gaza, surely this is significant.
Listen, it's been 2 years plus. I don't trust a word of what Netanyahu is saying. I don't trust a word of what Trump is saying. Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize.
But this is all
performative.
Got,
no, I'm sorry. I'm
away.
not going to, in this hour when this has just been released, I am not going to give them credit for anything because they could have stopped the killings a long time ago. And I have no time for what Hamas did. Over and over and over again, I've condemned what they did on October the 7th. But the story did not begin there. Then. The story of Palestinian suffering goes way back.
But then what on earth do you do with
done.
Hamas, Yasmin? How do you deal with Hamas?
I think, first of all, I want Israel to stop the killing. Then we can talk about peace. Instead, we have Netanyahu actually saying, if you don't do as we say, we'll finish the job. What kind of rhetoric is that? We'll finish the job?
Well, he is the leader of Israel. No doubt he is trying to appeal to those people who support him. He's trying to appeal to factions within his government. But, I mean, again, I want to return to trying to establish peace in Gaza. Surely that should be everyone's focus.
It can only happen if Palestinians come in with equal voices. And don't please tell me there are no Palestinian. The Palestinian Authority isn't, they dismiss everything that the Palestinians have ever done. Abbas is a chosen one. Abbas is the one the West preferred. But there are plenty of people in the Palestinian community here and abroad who could participate as equals in this process. Okay. But they have not been asked to it.
Okay, Gerry.
Well, the phrase finishing the job, I'm sure Netanyahu very consciously used that term, we'll finish the job. It was a term that was used by the British, Winston Churchill, in the Second World War when fighting the Nazis. Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. So finishing the job means to take out the terrorist organization and the people who are still there and still holding all of those Israelis hostage, some of them having been murdered. Many of them may face still murder. The astonishing barbarity is beyond words. And so Israel, knowing that that's what it confronts, and it confronts what it saw on October the 7th. And by the way, this history, 1940, when the beloved United Nations was the organization that set up two states initially in 1949, and the Palestinians refused to accept it. The Arabs refused to accept it. Israel accepted it. The Six-Day War that Yasmin talks about, that was started by the Arabs in an attempt to wipe out Israel, as was the Yom Kippur War. There have been repeated attempts by Arab countries.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, Yasmin, you may sigh, but as you know, until quite recently, most of those Arab countries were committed to the elimination of Israel. Some of them still are. And of course, Hamas, the organization that still is nominally in some control of some people.
Israel's had bad faith all the way through. And I hear nothing from you about the children Israel imprisoned long before October the 7th. I hear nothing from you about this talk about, it's a war and people die in war. Wonderful, wonderful narrative. Nobody's listening. Nobody's believing it anymore.
Look, I'm going to have to call time on this. You have our listeners sort of, I guess, backing each of you in equal measure. You come at this, and it's a really important thing to highlight here. You come at this from polar opposites almost, and it's been difficult for us to find any consensus.